Coaches Collaboration Podcast presents
Take Note Tuesday.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't have a lot of time? No problem.
Each week, we'll pick a topic and drop some knowledge in a short, concise mini episode.
Take Note Tuesday is a production of the Coaches Collaboration Podcast, hosted by Cole Warren of Salutum Health and Performance, Josh Pearson of The Complete Athlete, produced by Brooke Stevens.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to start up.
Let's go!
Oh, holy smokes. Back on the air. Back on the mother effing air. What's up, people? What's up, CCP listeners? It's your boy, Cole, and I'm solo dolo today. We have been off for a while. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One reason is, and I'm just gonna get this out of the way right away, so we don't need to, we'll air the dirty laundry and then kind of get back on with the show and back on track. But as I said, I'm alone today. There's no Josh. Brooke's over in the other room working, but no Josh. So unfortunately, Josh and I kind of had a little bit of a falling out, and I kicked him off the podcast. So I just I don't know. He was too small, too weak. I couldn't really stand him anymore. So we kicked him off. We're doing this solo now, and I'm excited. I'm excited not to be annoyed every second that I'm on the show. But yeah. So expect to just hear a lot more of me and a lot like zero of him anymore. And I think you'll all appreciate that anyway. But anyway, back on the air. What was that? Like 3-4 weeks off? Jesus. I don't think I'm gonna go over a meet recap today. We're just gonna do a Take Note Tuesday here. I'll do a full meet recap of my meet, how everything went, and we'll probably save that for a full episode. But for today, there's a couple things I want to talk about. And as I've kind of been getting more and more, spent more and more time in this sport, and just kind of around other coaches, athletes, just being immersed in the sport itself of powerlifting. And then also just like thinking back to the podcast that we did with James Vang, like so much of this sport is mental. Like there's so many different ways to get strong, right? Anyone can do X sets for X amount reps, and there's a good chance you'll get strong if you just stay consistent and do it over time. But the X factor, I think, in everything is your mentality and how you think about things and your mental approach to things. So today there's a couple things I wanted to discuss. And first thing is to not waste your warm-ups. And my athletes already heard me kind of talk about this a couple weeks ago. But I think anytime you get underneath the bar, it's an opportunity for you to get better at that movement. So when I say I don't waste your warm-ups, I mean use those sets as an opportunity to think about something that let's can't afford to think about when the weight gets heavier. So, for example, if let's just say I need to work on, and this is real life, this is what I've been working on, is keeping my quads activated in the squat and not allowing my hips to shoot back out of the hole. That's kind of an issue that I've had for a long, long time, and I've kind of just figured out how to mitigate that and how to fix it. And the way that I do that is I think about pressuring through my big toe into the floor. So just kind of rooting that big toe, it allows me to stay into my quads a little bit longer on the ascent of the squat, thus allowing me to stay more upright and not have my hips shoot back. But my point here is it's harder for me to think about that, to think about that when I'm like at my top sets or at my working sets. But I can afford to think about that and think just all about that because the weight's light enough during your warm-ups where you don't need to worry about the weight. So these warm-ups are a perfect opportunity to kind of get those cues down that you either are working on with your coach or things that you need to get better at. They're opportunities for you to get better. So that's what I would just say is don't waste those warm-up reps. Use those reps to kind of drill that cue into your brain so that by the time you get up to those top sets, you don't even necessarily need to spend as much brain power thinking about that. You can afford to be more intense and kind of go to that dark place you need to go in order to achieve the lift at these heavier weights, because you've already checked those boxes of those cues on the way up, so they're more automatic. And that kind of brings me into this next point here too, is not every session needs to be not every session needs to revolve around the weight on the bar. And what I mean by that, and we've been in kind of our crew that I lift with, we've been discussing this as well, as some days, not every day you're gonna go in there and have like a max out session. Like those days do come and they are there, but most of the time, especially if you're in a volume phase or if you're in kind of like an off-season type phase where you're messing around with kind of lighter weight or the intensity is lower overall, you can use that as an opportunity to get better at other aspects of that lift. For example, Neil and Ben, two guys that I lift with, are both on deload weeks this week. So the weight is relatively light for them, but they're not just like lollygagging through the workouts and just like, oh, the weight's light. I'm not going to take this seriously just because, it's a deload week. So I'm just going to kind of go through the motions here. No, what they're doing, and Ben did a really good job of this yesterday, is they're focusing on the other aspects of the lift. So that could be technical proficiency. That could be overall bar speed, which is kind of what we focused on with Ben yesterday, was just like being as explosive as possible and moving that bar as fast as humanly possible. Because again, the weight's lighter. So the weight on the bar doesn't necessarily even matter, again, because it's a deload week and it's just not a day that we're really even worried about the weight on the bar. So what we were doing is, one, we kind of messed around with his feet, his stance a little bit, and then we also just focused on being as explosive as possible into the bar. And I think those days and that mindset is so important, that like, just because the weight isn't necessarily heavy for you, there are other things you can be working on. There are other aspects of the lift that you can get better at. Always. So don't not take a lift seriously just because the weight isn't necessarily heavy. I know that's what we do with this sport, is try to lift the most amount of weight possible, obviously, but we don't, you're going to get burnt out, man. If you focus on that all the time, you're going to get effing burnt out, and then you're not going to be able to bring the correct intensity, mental intensity and excitement to every single workout, because you're like, well, I know today's a light day, so I don't really care. No, man. Yeah, okay, today's going to be a lighter day as far as bar weight, but we can make it, different in the aspect of, we're going to focus on this technique or this bar speed, because we don't need to think about the weight on the bar. So, and those two topics kind of tie in together, is just take every opportunity to get better. Don't just freaking lollygag your way through workouts, and it's just literally, it's just being mentally there and mentally plugged into what you're doing. Don't do anything for no reason. Everything should have a reason that you're doing it. So for example, every single warm up that I take, I'm thinking about cues in my head. And usually what I do is I take I'll take 135 for 2 to even 4 sets sometimes. But in the last 2 sets, or 1 set if I do 2 sets, is literally speed. So I'm just thinking about as being as explosive as possible. And the sets prior to that were kind of more loosening up, making sure my weight is distributed right on my foot, kind of more technique stuff. And then after I kind of get those down, then I focus on the speed. So then again, when I get to 225, I usually take 2 sets. First set again is kind of slower. I'm just kind of getting my setup down. I'm again focusing on where my feet are and the distribution of the weight on my feet. I'm thinking about rooting that toe, like I said I was working on before. And that's all during that first set. I'm kind of going through. I'll do probably 5 to 10 reps and focusing on all that stuff during every one of those reps. Then I rack the bar, take a little rest. And then when I take it for the second set, my mindset kind of shifts a little bit. It's like, okay, well, now I have all that stuff down at this weight. So now I can afford to, I'm obviously going to do all the same stuff that I did in that previous set. But now I'm going to think about bar speed as well. So I'm just adding that other aspect in. It's 225, but I'm using those reps to get me better and to get me more prepared for the sets to come. And also I'm using those reps as like, I'm literally going through the same process in my head as I would for my top set. So that when that top set comes around, or those top sets of reps or whatever you're doing, when the weight gets heavier, you already have those boxes checked about, okay, I need to have my feet here. I need to have my weight in the middle of my foot. I need to have my toe down. Okay, I need to set my hips back, and then I start my descent. No, like that's all. You've done that every single set going up. So you're still going to think about it for a second, but you don't need to think about it as much as you did in the previous sets because you already did. So it's going to be more automatic. And then, so that frees up kind of that area in your head or your body where you can get hyped up, get excited, get mentally prepared to withstand the load on the bar. Because you already have all those other boxes checked, you can proceed to go fucking nuts and do what you have to do to get the weight up. But you already laid down the path to succeed there. Like you already did all that during your warm-up sets. It's so much harder to like warm all the way up, and then once you get to a heavier set, it's like, oh shit, I forgot. Coach Cole told me that I should be thinking about, keeping my heels down a little bit more, keeping my weight a little bit further back on my foot. But now you're already at your top set. How the hell are you going to do that? How are you going to think about that when you need to think about, holy crap, I need to get this weight up? There needs to be a balance there, and you need to take advantage of the sets where you can afford to think more, so that when the sets where you can't afford to think more, it's automatic. So, that's kind of all I got for today's Take Note Tuesday. Like I said, it's a pity that Josh isn't with us anymore, but it's really not. So, we're going to keep on trucking, and hopefully you guys didn't all absolutely fall off and aren't going to listen to us anymore. We all got super, super busy. Brooke's doing a bunch of festivals and stuff for her job. And then Josh and I it's summertime. We're all busy during the weekend, so it's a little bit harder to get together. But we love doing this, and we love creating content, and I just love talking about this shit. So we're going to keep it up. We're going to get back rolling, and appreciate all you guys. And that's the first Take Note Tuesday in a while. So peace out.
Take Note Tuesday will drop every Tuesday.
Obviously.
What do you mean you haven't subscribed yet? What the hell are you waiting for?
Take Note Tuesday is a production of the Coaches Collaboration Podcast. Next episode drops Thursday.